What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create a quote or proposal automation system using AI and Make.com. The purpose of this system is to streamline, using automation, the creation of a proposal. If you've ever created a proposal, if you have an agency or some kind of service business, anything where you've interacted with a customer, understood their problems or their needs, and then generated some kind of proposal that addresses that, you know that can be a time-consuming process, and that may not be the best use of your time, putting all this stuff into a doc or into slides to send to the customer. So what we've done here is automate that. So using just some very simple inputs from you, which you could generate even as you're talking with the customer, maybe on the phone or right after, you can have the actual proposal document created automatically. So let me show you at a high level how this works, and then I'll show you it actually in operation. So first off, what you have is we're going to use a Typeform form to collect inputs from ourselves. So I'm going to be entering these inputs into Typeform as I'm talking to the customer with some very basic information. I'm going to put some basic information. I built this one right now to automate the quoting process for a hypothetical plumbing company. So I'm going to be putting in some very basic information about the project, put in a price, and then Typeform is going to give all that information to this OpenAI module. We're going to take those basic inputs, and using the prompting that's built in that I've put in here, we're going to generate more thorough, more professional responses that we can use in our proposal. So this is where the real efficiency comes in, is you can put a lot of stuff in this prompting about your business, about the services you offer, about what you do. So you don't have to be recreating that every time. It'll automatically come out in your ChatGPT output because of the way you prompt the model. We're then going to have that information automatically go into a template we've made in Google Slides. So we've made a template for the proposal and put essentially variables in where certain bits of data would go. So this scenario in Make.com will replace those variables in Google Slides with the actual data that came out of this OpenAI module. We're then going to save that as a PDF and upload that into a draft email. We'll also generate the text for the draft email using input from all this. And right now I'm just going to have it sit in drafts, and then I can go look at it, make sure it's what I want, and send it. You could also have it just send the email if you got really comfortable with this system and it was consistently generating what you wanted. You could just have it send the email. So the customer could get a proposal within seconds of hanging up the phone with you. There's some other things we could do to this too that would be cool. We could add a Google Sheets module to essentially create a database of all the proposals we'd send out. We could create a system that follows up on those. If we hadn't gotten a response, it sends a follow-up email after a certain amount of time, and I'll probably do that later. But I wanted to start with this. Let me actually show you this thing in action, and then maybe we can peek under the hood a little bit more. So right now I've got this Typeform form sitting and waiting for me. You could do the same thing in a Google form, but I'm using Typeform. I made all this up so you could have it be whatever you want it to be. So let's say the date. Okay, I'm going to put in my customer information. All right, so for this hypothetical plumbing company, I put in a dropdown to select one of these major types of service, and I could bake a lot into my prompt behind the scenes for each of these. Let's say this is a water heater repair, and then I can put a little more info about the description of the problem. Okay, I can put something about my solution. So none of this has to be perfect because it's not going directly to the customer like this. This is the benefit of using ChatGPT. It's going to clean all this up, make it sound professional, expand it as needed. It's going to know our business, so it'll be able to do that. So I just need to put the basic stuff in here. Price, yeah, what can I start? Okay, so once I've got these inputs in, and again, theoretically, I would put these in during the customer call or right after. I hit submit. And now I'm going to go back to this. Okay, so the webhook on this Typeform trigger has seen the data, and now that data is running through the system. It's gone through ChatGPT, it's in Google Slides, and now we've got a draft email. So I go into my drafts and check it out. All right, so I've got an email. Here's the quote for the water heater replacement. So I grab that. That's a variable in my Gmail module. And then this is the important part. It's attached quote here. So let's take a look at that. So this is the template that's been filled out. You could obviously put your own branding in here, put colors, whatever, pictures. I haven't done this quote number yet, but you'll see it's got the name, the date, the project, blah, blah, blah. This is a little bit of made up stuff I put in about the business. And then here's where, actually, if I go show you the template so you can see what this looks like. One second. Okay, so this is the template that it filled out. So we created the file that we were just looking at, the quote, based off this template. So you can see I've got all these variables in curly brackets, and that's what it replaced with the data from that actual run that we just did. So I've got a long project description, the location, special notes. Here's the scope, materials, the pricing. All of this is just in here as variables as a template. So this is where the efficiency comes in. So now if I show you the one that we created, all this has been filled out. So it's a water heater, it's leaking, we need to replace it. You're summarizing what the customer's told you and what you're going to do about it. Where's it at? You know, some special notes. All this comes out. The price comes out. These are terms I put in, you know, obviously put whatever you want. And here's the estimated start date. So this is all sitting in an email, a draft email that I could just come in here and quickly review and hit send. And like I said, once you got comfortable, you can set this up to send automatically once you've tested it. So let's go back and look just a little bit at how this works. So this is the webhook for Typeform. So once this is running, it's watching for new data to be submitted on that form that I created. Again, you could use Google Forms or any other form builder, but this one's watching for data to come off that webhook. When it sees that data, then it takes it. I've got several data fields that came off the Typeform. So if you click here, you can see here's all these data fields that come off of the Typeform. And so I'm passing those into this OpenAI ChatGPT prompt. So here's the prompt that I gave it. I said, you're going to generate outputs for this proposal using inputs. I could have put a lot more in here. This is a made up business. So I could have put a lot more about the business, about what we do, how we do it, and then it could use all that to generate the output. But I tell it, here's the different things that I want you to create and sort of what I'm expecting, the scope. I want a couple sentences about what you're going to do. Here's a short description. I just want a few words. All of that we've set up. We've set this up to come out in JSON formatting, and it's got to be parsed so that I can pick up these different variables later in the automation. So here is all the data that I'm passing in to the prompt. And then again, I've got my response format selected to JSON. I'm parsing that response. And that's pretty much it for the prompt. Now this goes into Google Slides, and I literally, obviously once you connect to your Google account, you can set the title. So I'm creating this off of a template. So I tell it, here's the template file that I want to use. So I selected this. It went and saw what was in my Google Drive. And I said, this is the template. Here's what I want you to rename that file as. So in this case, I'm using the address, the street address. You could use a proposal number or a quote number. You could use the person's name, whatever you want. But I'm creating a unique file name for that. And then here's all these fields. So these were the variables you saw in curly brackets in that template file. These are the variables that were in the curly brackets. And then here's the data that I'm mapping to those variables that it's going to replace. So I've got some of these that are coming straight off the Typeform, the first and last name, don't need to be changed by AI, the quote date. But then here are these descriptions that I'm using ChatGPT to create a more polished or a condensed or an expanded set of data that I'm going to put in here. So I've got all of these set, and I tell it where to save it. And then this one's really simple, the Google Drive. I'm basically I tell it which file I'm looking for. Again, you've already connected your Google Drive, we assume. Here is the file we just created, the Google Sheet. And then I'm telling it, convert that to a PDF because I want a PDF that I can send out. It's going to be easier. That's it. And then I literally come in here, connect my Gmail. I say, you're going to create something in drafts. And then I tell it, this comes off the type form. Here's the customer's email address. Here's the subject line for the email. I did the same thing as the title for the file. Use the street address. And then I've got the content for the email. Hi, first name. Now you can use HTML line breaks in the, I think it shows that in here. Yeah, you can use HTML tags. So just to create the spaces, I put these line breaks in. And then I pass in the short project description in lowercase. So it refers to the, what we were talking about, the water heater replacement or the faucet repair or whatever. And then I attach the file that we just downloaded as a PDF right here. And that is it. That's how it works. Like I said, we could do more. We could add on a Google Sheet database, and we store all these in a database. We could then, in fact, this would be a cool project that I think I'll do next. We could create an automation that follows up if we haven't heard back in 3 days or a week or whatever, send a follow-up email on that thread. But that's how it works. I think this could be an awesome automation if you spend a lot of time and it's kind of low value work to create these proposals. This is a great way to make that really quick and easy. And yeah, hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions or if you need any help. Thanks, guys.